It's insanely fun and beautiful and also really unique because you can do it from anywhere. It's something that you can do from home, from wherever you live in the world. And that is such a beautiful gift because it also opens up so many doors of possibility.
Welcome to A Creative Odyssey. I'm Ryde. I'm a designer, an entrepreneur, and online educator obsessed with all things design, quilting, and creative business. Whether you're a seasoned quilter or you're just starting out, whether you're passionate about design and textiles, or whether you're a creative business geek who loves to nerd out on all the moving parts that go into making a creative business thrive, you are in the right place. I'm excited to share insights from my creative odyssey with you as I navigate design, creativity, and growing an online business on this journey as a creative entrepreneur. Are you ready to explore the possibilities of design and discover the world of creative business? It's time to embark on a creative odyssey. Welcome, welcome. I'm super excited to have a special guest here on the Creative Odyssey podcast. Bonnie, it is wonderful to see you and to have you back on the show. Thanks for joining me on a Creative Odyssey.
Oh, Allie, thank you so much for having me. I love being here.
So I've known you for a couple of years now, and of course I've been avidly watching your story unfold over the years too. But for those of us who don't know you yet, could you give us a little bit of a quick introduction, just so my listeners can get to know you a little bit?
Yes, my name is Bonnie. Allie, thank you so much for having me. So I am a surface pattern designer. I have been licensing my work since 2012, and then in more recent years have been an educator and never really saw that one coming. I really felt like through my experience, I wanted to turn around and kind of crack open the industry and make it easier for people to learn how to do the same thing that I did. And so that has led us to where we are today. What else do you want to know?
Well, okay, let's just back up a little bit here because, when I first found out about surface pattern design, I was kind of blown away by the fact that there was this whole industry right in front of us, almost somehow hidden in plain sight. And that to me was kind of mind-blowing when I first kind of discovered this, I guess. And I remember not knowing what surface design was. So maybe you could give us a quick overview of what surface design is or surface pattern design is, just to get into what context we're in here.
I love this question because I'm so excited for every single person who's like, yeah, that's a good question. Because there's like a moment where you learn what this is and your whole universe expands. And so mind blowing. So, surface design is this big, beautiful industry that represents every product in the world that has artwork placed on it. So, if you want to imagine walking into Anthropologie or Target and think about the products like melamine dishes and rugs and mugs and gift cards and aprons and tea towels and the clothing and the lamps and all the things, that is part of this industry called surface design. And there's an artist behind every piece of artwork. And that's what we're doing. That could be you. And then there's this beautiful, joy-filled little nook underneath the umbrella of surface design called surface pattern design. And that is when you create repeating patterns for products that require it, like fabric and wallpaper and gift wrap and tissue paper, and tape and ribbon. And there is something just uniquely satisfying about this sector because you get to see your work put into repetition and then on things like quilts.
Yeah, absolutely. So, of course, for me and many of my listeners, that whole crossover between fabric, textile design, quilting as well, and even just like thinking about, wow, I could design the fabric that I get to sew with as well. I mean, it's just kind of that tingly feeling. It doesn't seem like this could actually be somebody's real life job. You know what I mean? It's such a surprise to me. So really thinking about creating fabrics for your own quilt, that to me is just something that I think is super special, especially for quilters. I know
Mhm.
that you got your start kind of in the quilting sphere as well. You've got family connection. I think your mum had a fabric store. Do you want to tell us a little bit about that story? Because I think that leads nicely into kind of how this discovery happened for you as well.
Yeah, so we're talking industry terms of surface pattern design, but really what I wanted to be was a fabric designer. And I was just raised in a very creative home. My mom owned a quilt store, a fabric store. And when I came home, I kind of graduated from business school, got married, moved home, and found myself working at my mom's quilt store. And part of my job there was to meet with reps to decide what collections we would carry for the season in the store. And there was just this moment that hit me that was like, this is someone's job. And in the same moment, it settled into my very bones that that is what I wanted to do. And, there were just some major problems with that. Like, like how? And who was I to think that I could ever do such a thing? And what on earth would that even look like? And so that was back in 2010, 2009, 10. And there really wasn't anyone teaching how to do this. The whole industry kind of was pretty zipped up. And so I spun myself into like this 2-year journey of learning, kind of piecemealing this whole thing together. And it started quite honestly from like Googling, first of all, how to design fabric. And that just would give you like a little cookie crumb to follow and another cookie crumb to follow. I ended up emailing some of the just world's biggest designers, especially in 2010. I was emailing like Amy Butler and Tula Pink and these people
Wow.
just to see if they would potentially have anything to give me. And I have these emails from them still to this day where they, just were willing to share. And that was enormously impactful to me. And still, it took me a really long time to just learn kind of the hard way.
Mm.
Um, and so that I guess the end of that story is that at the end of those 2 years, I signed my first fabric licensing contract with Art Gallery Fabrics, and I've been with them ever since. That was 2012. And so the quilting industry is my first love always. I design for fabrics predominantly and specifically to the quilting industry, which is interesting, right? Like there are interesting things to consider, like the direction of your prints and the scale of your prints and how it's going to work when someone cuts out a pattern or how it's going to work when they use it on a quilt. And also, I think I could talk about this forever. I'll let you talk in just a second, Allie. But I think
Go
that
ahead.
quilting in particular is so unique because it ends up being legacy work. Quilts are the things that we make and then we pass down from generation to generation to generation. And the quilts that I have from my grandmother and my great grandmother are some of my most prized possessions. And so to be able to be a part of that with the work that you do in your fabric design is just incredibly meaningful.
Absolutely. I think that textiles for humans in general just have so much meaning, right? Like we wear them, we sleep under them, we live with them, they surround us all the time, they're close to our skin, they're literally on our bodies all of the time. And that whole legacy element that you're talking about, that's how I kind of got into quilting as well. I was a new mother, a brand new mother, and the mum of one of my college friends sent me from across the oceans in Australia a baby quilt. And I was just blown away by the fact that somebody had made this incredibly special thing for me. And we have that quilt, my daughter still uses it, and it just has these memories all the time. And all the fabrics we use, these quilts have a lot of scraps in them, and my daughters love to look at them and say, "Oh, that's the fabric that's from this thing, or that's the fabric that's from this other thing." So that kind of connection that we have with fabrics, I think, is such an important part. And to be a part of that industry is just it's super special, like you said as well.
Yeah,
But you also
super special.
mentioned that you started out in business school, and
Mm,
then you kind of took this running leap into the creative industries, this creative journey. It's a pretty big deal to
yeah,
close a door on that kind of part of your life and take a leap into this whole new direction. Once upon a time, I don't know if you know this about me, I used to be a mechanical engineer. I used to work
good.
offshore on oil rigs. And I can look back and I can like pinpoint that decision moment where I quit my very well paying job and I took this leap into design and I started to kind of acknowledge my creative self, if you want. Looking
Yeah.
back at that moment, I don't think I could really see what would unfold from that. So, what is that decision point for you now? When you look back, could you have imagined half of the things that you have done since you made that decision to really step into your creativity, go all in on your creative self?
Yeah, this is a great question. There was definitely a moment in time, and I was always creative, meaning crafty. Like I was always crafty growing up. I had the just yeah, I would tinker and be creative. So I knew that I had that. I would not have called myself an artist, to be very clear. I did not have an art practice or a regular drawing practice or anything like that. And then I also knew that I wanted to be an entrepreneur. I came from a family of entrepreneurs. That's why I went to business school, but I didn't really know what I was going to do with it. My husband and I considered opening like an outdoor store for, like, I had a whole business plan for it. And then this moment happened. So that moment of the dream settling in happened, and then I started working on it. And then the big decisions had to come, right? Like, well, this is going to take some time. And so what does that look like? So we we were living in a very expensive part of the country at the time. We were in California for my husband's job for 2 or 3 years. And we were on, like, I believe combined, we were making like $28,000 a year. And so things were like very tight. And here I am wanting to do this enormous like experiment to see if I could make this work. And that's going to take time. And so David and I sat down and really had this heart to heart. And the decision on the table was to have a job that paid the bills and have financial security, or do what we loved at the expense of financial security and just make sure that we lived our life doing something that lit us up. And the decision was easy. And so then we started to figure out how. So what we decided to do was sell a car. We had two cars, so we sold a car, and then we started saving like a little bit of money every month. And that allowed us to buy me some time. And so I chauffeured him to work and went back and picked him up at the end of the day. And we just did what we had to do to figure it out. And it was still, it was about 2 years before I started making income. And then I eventually, pretty quickly, I made the same amount as him, which we always thought was impossible. And then eventually I surpassed him, and then just off we went.
Amazing. That's incredible. It really is about that commitment, I guess, and that decision. Like it's really a moment where you say, yes, this is what I'm going to do, and being absolutely intentional about everything that you do following that moment, I think. What are some of you talked about some of the
Yeah.
financial kind of challenges, and yeah, you have to, agree with your family, your spouse, your partner, whoever it is, to kind of embark on this journey. But what are some of the other challenges that you faced when starting your business, and how did you go about overcoming those?
Which ones do you want to talk about? We could talk about imposter syndrome, fear, like terrifying fear. Yeah, it was mainly this concept of like, who do I think I am? Because I could not have been further away. Like I wasn't on this journey, right? Like I didn't have a foot in the door. I wasn't an existing artist. Certainly didn't have anything on the internet. No presence, no social media, no website, nothing. And this was big and audacious. And I thought, I just let it crush me for a while. And then even once I had started working towards it, I still just had this like, who do you think you are in the back of your mind? And then one day I was like, why not me? Like, there are people, plenty of them, living my dream, doing the thing that I want to do. And if that's the case, then why not me? And so it really broke it down into like, okay, so it might not be me super quickly, but it can certainly be me if I'm just willing to put in the work. So if you're just willing to put in the work, I think that there's nothing that you can't do. I mean, nothing that you can't do if you're just willing to do the work.
Yeah, absolutely. I think you talked about something pretty important there as well. And it's so easy in the days of social media, and there's like a 20-second reel and somebody makes a quilt in like that, or they're designing and they have the fabric and it's like right there with them, and these like cut and paste that we can see all of the time. And time seems to be really condensed down into this really rapid sort of fire action
Yeah.
taking, and results are immediate. But how do you deal with
Mm.
that kind of patience that you need to have to really go with it for the long haul? I know you talk a lot about consistency. What does that take to accept that things will take time and to really work on that kind of element of patience when you are growing a business?
This is the hardest part of all. And it's not really hard. It's just hard today. So, like in today's world, it like we have no patience. And so I would say that that is the number one thing that people are really struggling with is that they want instant results. And we've been conditioned for that. And most of it is, it's all right, right? Like we can get food delivered instantly. We can, I don't know, many things we can get instantly. And developing your creativity and developing your art, it's going to take time. And so there's another way to look at it, right? Like it's sort of like fast food is appealing and also slow food is even more appealing. It's the love, the joy, the process of cooking
Mm.
something that you grew in the garden, and that's really inviting. And so this really invites you to just take a beat, slow down, and come create with your hands. We're all creative. We were created to create. It's a human experience to want to build something out of nothing. And that is not an instant result. And so it's an invitation to come and just like be present with your process and fall in love with it. And so there's two ways to look at it, right? There's a gap that we all have between what we want something to look like and what it actually looks like. And there's just time in between those two results. And nobody gets from one to the other in a day or a week or a month. It's going to take time to close that gap, but you're going to close it as long as you fall in love with the process. And so you can either be annoyed at how long it's taking you and want to rush, rush, rush and feel like there's all these closing windows of opportunities, or you can fall in love with it and cherish it because it's actually a delicious time in your journey to play, to experiment, to make work that you like and make work that you don't like, and figure out what it all is. And then once you come with your work to the world and you've already figured all that out, people are like, oh, there it is. So you
Mm.
just have to really, really embrace the time and know that it's beneficial for you to not have instant results.
Yeah, I think that that element is really important, that embracing the process. I think society in general, probably, this is maybe a big generalization, it's pretty outcome driven, right? It's like what's the bottom line? What's the revenue? What's the, how many patterns have you made? How many quilts have you made? Whatever it is, it's very much outcome driven, but really focusing on that process. I mean, I feel that as a designer as well. That's where the joy is. That's what I want to be doing. I want to be doing the stuff. I don't want to be at the end of the journey. I want to be in the journey. So that's it's great to hear that perspective as well. What do you think it is that, you had this discussion with David, your husband, about really embracing this pathway that you decided to take on. But what do you think it is that ultimately compels somebody to go from not being necessarily a creative person or not identifying as an artist and then taking that step into that whole new persona and becoming creative, admitting to ourselves that, oh, maybe I'm an artist, maybe I'm a designer, something that we might not have even acknowledged to ourselves before, let alone out loud. What is it that compels us to take that final step into, okay, I'm going to do this, I'm going to start?
It's hard to talk about what I teach because you don't have to be an artist. And also, if you are an artist, awesome. Like you're gonna just hit the ground running. But you really need to be creative. And I like to think about that as like enjoying composition or enjoying like working with color, right? And that is your creativity bubbling to the top, right? And like we all have this endless well of creativity. I like to think about our creativity being like our superpower, really, because it can feel far away, but as soon as you tap into it, like if you haven't done anything creative in a month, in 6 months, in 9 years, go grab a piece of paper and just start making marks on it with no pressure to do anything lovely. Just be one with making art, marks. And then you'll have more creativity. Like the more you use it, even if it's just a tiny bit, it begins to present itself more and more and more. And then you never run out of it. And so the more you use it, the more you'll have. And I forgot your question, Allie. I was going somewhere with that.
Just about that transition from,
Oh,
maybe you're somebody
exciting.
who's not really identifying
Yeah,
yourself as an artist, or even if you are, you're
exciting.
not necessarily
Yeah.
practicing. But yeah,
I would.
developing this practice, I think, is really an important part of that
Yeah,
emergence
so
of your identity. Yeah.
so come and use your creativity because this is the thing that I think is so important that we cannot miss is that whatever it is for you, I want you to love what you do for a living. We spend way too much time at work or working towards something that creates revenue for us, for our family, for our needs. You might as well really, really love it so much so that you're excited to get out of bed in the morning, so much so that you feel like weird calling it a job or work when you talk about it to your friends because you love it that much. And it may not be this for you, but it could be. And it is for so many people because I mean, look at what we get to do. It's insanely fun and beautiful and also really unique because you can do it from anywhere. It's something that you can do from home, from wherever you live in the world. And that is such a beautiful gift because it also opens up so many doors of possibility, specifically for women and moms or people who are
Hmm.
living in, like I live in a tiny town in North Carolina where there's really not there's not a lot of opportunity, but I get to do this because I have Wi-Fi, really. I have design software and
Yeah.
Wi-Fi, and that's all I need.
It's
So it's
amazing,
just,
right? I'm the same. We live in this tiny little nowhere town in Italy. People are like, "What do you do?" And I'm like, "Well, I'm here. I'm in my studio. I do my thing, and it's great. And I get to spend more time with my children, and I get to travel to see my mum who lives on the other side of the world. And I have this flexibility being able to live this life. It's an
yeah,
incredible feeling to be able to have that kind of control over your own time
yeah,
and control over what it is that you do and how you bring that about into the world. I
yeah,
think
I love
that's
it.
a wonderful thing to just segue a little bit into what's coming up in your world now to start your creative practice and to kind of maybe get back into that habit of creating and understanding a little bit more about surface design and maybe what opportunities exist there and how exploring surface design might unlock your creative potential. What's this kind of next best step for somebody who wants to find out a bit more about surface design and you and your world?
So every year I teach a free workshop. It's called your Pattern Design Playbook. And I'm so excited about it. It's coming up. It's from February 10th through the 19th. So it's in real time, but you can jump in at any time in there. And I am teaching 4 different lessons. And this workshop is the perfect opportunity for you to come and experience the breathtaking world of surface design and know whether or not you want to go for it or not. So these lessons, the first one is called Pattern Possibilities, and it really kind of we scratched the surface today, but it really unfolds what is this industry? What is pattern design? What does it make possible for me? The second one is Pattern Progress, and this year for the first time ever, I'm walking through people Allie, we're going to actually map out their first collection, and I'm so excited about it. So you don't
Awesome.
have to be an artist, you don't have to use any software, but I'm going to walk you through this 5-step process that I use in my collection creation so that you can grasp an idea and really feel what it would feel like to work as a pattern designer. That one is going to be so fun. Lesson 3 is the pattern path, and I think that this is probably the biggest gift I could give anyone, and it's the map, basically. What I didn't have, which felt so overwhelming, was what does this look like? What are the milestones? How long is it going to take? What are all the things I have to do in between? And so we're literally taking your end result, whether that is to be a fabric designer or finish your portfolio or license your work on wallpaper or sign a deal with Anthropology, whatever it is, we're going to take that and break it down into milestones and action steps so that you can wrap your mind around what the journey would look like and if you want to do it or not. And then lesson four is everyone's favorite. It's called Pattern Profits. That's where I break down the 15 different revenue streams that artists can use to create income from their artwork. And so in between those four lessons are some live Q&A sessions where you can come ask me questions about the industry and what it might look like for you. The whole workshop is about 5 hours of commitment across 8 days, right? And so I took that to my math. We've got some tools and resources that we're giving. We're doing a starter kit, a surface design starter kit, a tool tracking system, a map. We've calculated that it will give you back over 50 hours of time in the tools and
Wow.
strategies alone. So it's like, come to the workshop and 10x your time. I'll see you there.
That's amazing. I'm super excited for this upcoming workshop. It's always enlightening. It's an amazing way to connect with other creative people and just kind of tap into that juice that, that power of feeling like you're part of a group of people who are excited about something. I think that's really powerful. And of course, you get an amazing insider look at what surface design is and what these possibilities are that it can unlock for you as well. For those of you listening in, you can find out all about it. You can register for free at aliryde.com/Bonnie. You're going to find the link down below this video as well. Bonnie, as always, it has been an absolute pleasure. Thank you for joining me here on A Creative Odyssey.
You too. Thank you, Allie. Bye.
Bye for now.